Chunson, it's so fun to be able to
Hi.
do this with you. I'm so comfortable with you. I feel like you're such an important part of Epiphany, and I've been blessed to experience your skill and your kindness. Um, I wanted to I thought people might be interested in a bit of your sort of well, of course, your whole story, but when did you first immigrate? When did you immigrate to Canada?
First of all, I am so honored to be interviewed by you, and I'm so thank you so very much for your generous introduction. So my coming to Canada. So, well, let me say I was born in Seoul, Korea, and I am the seventh of nine siblings, seven boys and two girls. And we grew up in Korea during the 60s and 70s, where the political and cultural turmoil happened. And so my formative years have been a lot different from yours or the Western life. And then so I grew up in a very big family with you can just imagine having seven boys in the house, very noisy, very smelly and dirty, and and mealtime was like a war. So as soon as any kind of meat dish comes out, then it just disappears in seconds. We didn't have any table setting, so to speak. It was we didn't have any sitting chair. The our culture is we usually sit on the floor. So, we had two nannies, which is very common at that time in Korea. So, they would bring big table every meal to my parents' bedroom. And they all sit around and they start, eating. And our meal time is around 5 minutes. That's how quickly we finish. And I remember one time that we start eating and we don't just eat and chat, but we eat like this. And say there's a dish of bacon, then we go like this and we just all disappearing, and last two pieces and going, oh, that's mine. That's yeah. You sort of have to do that, and it's think about it now. It's fun and a lot of stories, but at that time it was like competitions and wartime. So I was very sickly child, and so as my youngest brother. So my mom would have me and my younger brother side by side, and she would like just feed us just like that, so that none of us get hungry later on. So I mean, it was a very difficult time, but as you know, my mom had kids 1 or 2 years apart for a while. So her friends would ask her, looking at her big belly, oh, you haven't had a baby yet? And she says, no, it's another one kind of thing. At that time, it is very norm to have a big family. Then to
Okay.
my mom's friend had like 8 girls, and that's, a lot of people had that. So fast forward, my family came to Vancouver when I was 15, some 40 years ago. And my dad and mom worried about us, how we're going to survive in this world. And after much consideration, they decided to come to Canada for us to have a better life. But now I think about it, it's such a big risk for them to
Mm,
sell
sure.
everything. They own the house, his well-established business in Korea, and moving to a foreign country where he didn't know anybody and he didn't speak the language. It was such a daunting task, but nevertheless, that they took it, and we were there. So I was 15 when I came.
Okay. Now, had you started doing music before that? Did you
Yes,
take music when you were a child? And
yes.
and
At my sister, my older sister, used to play the piano. Then I remember she and I are 7 years apart, and when she started practicing, I used to dance around, and I would like just tinker on the the other side of the piano and just going like this. And then and one time I asked my mom, can I take a piano lesson too? And you know my mom, having 9 kids around, her answer was always no. So, so without thinking, so can I take a piano lesson, mom? I go, no, one girl is enough. That's what she said. So then I went to a friend's house one time, and she had a piano, and she was learning from this blind teacher, and I wanted to learn from her. So I would save up some money. For instance, if my mom gives me a chore to, okay, Chunson, go to the grocery store and get me some apples or something like that, then I would get it. Then I would just keep the change without her. And that's how I collected my money. And then one time I visited the blind teacher with a bag of sugar, and I just present this to her, and can you please teach me how to play the piano? Because my mom said no. Of course, I didn't tell my mom. And just, a few times later, my mom found out. Then she put me, she pulled out of there, then put me into a private teacher. So I was playing piano all that time. And when I came to Canada, culture shock, language barrier. Basically, I had no friends. I had a very lonely high school years. So when I first came, I was sort of in grade 9/10, plus the ESL class, which is English as a second language. So I had a very lonely high school years. And by the time I had to choose a major for my bachelor's degree, piano seemed to be a natural a source. So,
okay,
yeah.
that's well, I love that you're devious. I love that. So, when you did your bachelor's degree in music, did you start, or did you decide then that you wanted to go ahead and do a master's, or what was the focus of your master's and your doctorate? Did you do that in Vancouver, or how did
No,
that
no.
happen?
So how I met my teacher, my very first major teacher, whose name is Dr. Robert Silverman. I started with his wife, Ellen Silverman, first in the beginning, in high school. And I wanted to study with Bob Silverman later on. And before I started at UBC, I went to a summer camp where he was teaching. And during that camp, he performed um, a concerto, a Brahms piano concerto number 2 with an orchestra. And it's about an hour long piece. I was totally mesmerized by his performance. I was literally frozen for the whole hour of that performance. And he immediately became my role. And the first thing that it came to my mind was, I gotta get a doctorate degree just like him.
Oh,
Yeah. So that was the first goal. And after the bachelor's degree, I wanted to, just like every other young musicians, when they start dreaming about their dream, I wanted to be a concert pianist. So I got to go to a good school. So I applied for master's, then the doctoral later on. But for master's degrees in piano performance, you don't have to have a thesis. A thesis is your piano recital, solo recital. and the doctorate degree is later on, but doctorate degree is another story. Oh man, it's excuse me. Yeah.
Right. And so were you in, where did you do your master's at Juilliard? Is that when you were at Juilliard?
Yes. Yeah, it was kind of funny actually. It sort of relates to how I became a Christian. So in the senior year at UBC, I met my future husband, and when we were dating seriously, um, his parents asked me how, what I was and how I was like and all of that. But one thing that they required me to do was to be a Christian. So his family was third generation Christians, and they didn't want anything else, but I had to be a Christian. So after I met my husband, I started going to church
Okay.
near my house, but it was just out of formality. It was not that serious. And after dating with him about 6 months, it was the time that I applied to the Juilliard, and I really wanted to get in. And so I started praying to God daily. Really, I don't know how to pray. I didn't have any Christian, training how to do this. I just did like I was talking to him. And I got to the point that I was begging God to let me in this. I was really, really desperate. So I made a deal with God, so to speak.
We've all done that, Chunson. We've all done that.
Okay, I'm glad that I'm not the only one. So I was praying, if you let me go into this school, I will live my life for you, God. And what do you know? My prayer was answered, and that's how really I started believing in God truly and wholeheartedly. But as you know, my shallow faith get tested over and over again. Yeah.
I think that's for all of us, right? I wouldn't say your faith is shallow, but I think that's part of Christianity, isn't it? Being a Christian is to hang in there when you're being tested.
Yes, yes.
So, and then when did you move to Ottawa after you were married? You moved to Ottawa?
So my journey to Ottawa was that okay, so after we got married, first city that we settled down was Providence, Rhode Island, because my husband studied there, and a year later I studied at Boston. But we were living in Providence, Rhode Island, so I had to commute 1 hour each way to take courses, and for 3 years I did that. Then so we were there in Providence for 5 years. Then when my husband got a degree, we went to Thunder Bay for 2 years for his postdoc position. Then we went to Northern California for 1 year. Then we went to Korea for 4 years. Then we came to Ottawa.
Oh my word! Like, what a globetrotter! What a globetrotter! And did you have? Maybe you could tell us about your kids. I know they're delightful and they're very accomplished. And so, did you have your kids here in Ottawa, or did you have your kids when you were traveling the globe?
So I had my first son in Providence, and then I had my daughter in California.
Okay.
So it was like East and West.
East and West. I think it's interesting that now your son has settled in that area where he was born. That's kind of very interesting to see.
It is, yeah.
I always say for my kids, when they went back to school, they were born in Kingston, and then we traveled a bit, and then they ended up going back to school in Kingston, and one of them lived there for quite a while. And I always say it was like salmon going back up, going upstream, back to their roots, you know. So
Yes.
that's fascinating. I didn't know you traveled so much across the
Yes,
world.
we were moving quite frequently. Yes.
And did that traveling, is that what led you to teaching piano? Because it was hard to, it was a way that you could use your craft and your skills and, you know, financially support the family while your husband was in school and things like that. Is that how you ended up going to teaching?
Yes. So as soon as I went to UBC, I started teaching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've been teaching over 4 decades. So
wow.
Yeah. But so here and there, anytime I could get students, I was always teaching, and it was our major source of income for you know, student years for sure.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say? I'm sure your philosophy has changed teaching from UBC days to now, but what would you say your philosophy of teaching and encouragement? I mean, I think many of us know that you have had a number of students that have become very accomplished musicians. We've had the pleasure of hearing one or two of them in church. So what would you say your philosophy for keeping your students interested and still loving the music? Because you do hear of kids that start music and just love it and then just drop out because it's, for whatever reason. So how would you say your philosophies affected your students and what your philosophy is?
I mean, although I've been teaching for 4 decades, my original dream was to be a concert pianist like all other young musicians, dream. Then while I was writing my doctoral dissertation, I used a laptop, which was just starting to come out in the market. But I had to use the laptop like 6-7 hours daily, like this for 3-4 months. And with my 6-year-old son and infant daughter around, I was like, trying to do as quickly as possible. What it resulted was tendonitis. So I had to fold my dream and veer to teaching. So that's when I really started thinking about teaching seriously. And just because we were moving a lot before we settled down in Ottawa, it's really Ottawa that's when I can see the results of my teaching. So my teaching, I would say, would be care. Like, I take my students very seriously, and I care for my students as my own child. One time I was complaining about my student to my husband, and my husband told me this. He said, there are no bad students, but only bad teachers. And I was really stuck on my mind for a long, long time. And I tried not to be a bad teacher. So my students' ages are from about 6-year-old to 17 until they go to university. And it's literally like raising kids with their moms. I talk to the parents a lot about them, and they like it because their interest is their kids too. So it's really like having 2 moms, for the kids. But I realized that while I was teaching, I'm not just teaching piano to them, but everything else, like kind of life lesson. I teach them how to set a goal, how to plan to achieve it, how to get along with the parents, how to negotiate with the parents, how to argue, how to get good grades, and all things that everyday life that would involve. And I do, because my students do lots of playing in public. We talk about, again, having deadlines, how to meet them successfully, and they have to learn pieces and memorize quickly and polish and get dressed and perform by memory a few times before the real concert. And they talk, we talk about how to handle mishaps, how to calm down before the concert. But in the midst of all this preparation, I talk about Trinity. I don't know, like, I believe in Trinity, but I don't talk to them Trinity as in God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit, but I talk to them like student, teacher, and parents, how we triangular relationship would make a successful team. And I emphasize that how we have to balance everything, all this one. And another thing that I really do a lot to my students is I teach them about praying. I don't say pray because, there could be their parents, especially their parents, can be really offended by, me teaching, Christianity and things so on. So I don't say God or things like that, but I say, I believe in God. And I believe in his power and all this one, but this is what I do. And this is how I would pray, all this one. I don't know what you believe, but you can believe in something else you believe in, your family believes in supernatural power. And you would pray for that power, and you can calm yourself down, and how you can do that. So I'm sort of I don't know, in a discrete way to relating, God to teaching. So my teaching philosophy, to sum up, is really I care about each student like my own, and I pay detail attention to them.
Right.
Like,
right.
yeah.
Now, how did you end up, I know you were a musical director at another church when you came to Epiphany, but how did you transition to accompanying choirs and teaching choirs? What is your background with that? I know you were at quite a large Korean church, and then you were at Epiphany, but are there other, like, when did you start that part of your career?
So I came to Epiphany in 2004. And at that time, I was organist choir director at Ottawa Korean Community Church, where the rest of my family went. So I seeked another position to have more variety in repertoire at that time. And I felt kind of limited, that I couldn't really do what I wanted to do with the repertoire and what I could do with the choir. So that's how I applied to Epiphany. But it was Sandy Menard in our church, who is an OMTA member, where I belong to. OMTA is Ontario Registered Music Teachers Association. And so I went to one of the meetings, and she would say, there is a post at Epiphany Church, anybody who's interested and could apply. So that's how I applied. And then, so for 3 years, I had 2 services on Sundays, one in the morning at Epiphany, and the other one in the afternoon at Korean Church. But in 2007, the Korean Church bought their building, and they started service in the morning as well. So I had to choose. Okay. So it was not a hard decision. I chose Epiphany. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I decided on Epiphany because I love the friendly and welcoming environment. And again, I'm not saying that Korean church is not. It's just that, there are many cultural and administrative differences between 2 churches. churches. So I loved how cheerful and joyful atmosphere Epiphany had. And even, I mean, right now, my niece Mindy and Edward Mayer, Mindy and Edward got married at our church, right?
Yeah.
So I have just, one more reason to love Epiphany. And
Right.
mhm.
And of course, we love you. I mean, I have, just in a personal note, I've just learned so much from you and developed you. I can see you're teaching philosophy with your piano students because for me, since you've been there, I've developed more confidence in what I can do. Probably I'd do a lot better if I worked as hard as some of your piano students have, but I just, we're very blessed that you've come to
Oh,
Epiphany
thank you so
because
much.
the music program has, I think when the surveys were done, we had the big survey done, and you and the music were a major reason people said that they wanted to continue Epiphany. What they liked best about Epiphany was your presence in the church and also the music program that you've developed. And I just couldn't agree more. It's joyful to go to church. I miss it so much, the choir.
Yes, I
We all
yeah,
miss the choir that are in the choir,
we
but
all miss, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
thank you.
So my another question, like, is apart from music and church, I know you've become, because I sort of remember when you got into it, you've become a big proponent of exercise. So how has exercise like affected the way you teach, the way you live, your philosophy? How has that been affected?
So I used to hate exercising. I was never good at it. I was always short of breath. Most of all, I hated running. I know even in high school when I had the gym classes and things, and I was just terrible at it. When we had the basketball, I was like, instead of catching the ball, I was like, ooh, ooh. And then they probably thought this weird Asian girl was like, just running around screaming at the ball. But about 10 years ago, one day, for some reason, I was inspired to do some exercising. So I decided to walk to the nearest farm boy in the middle of winter like this. And on the way home, I had 2 bags of groceries. I fell and I sprained my ankle, but I fell to the point that I couldn't get up by myself. So a person had to help me got up, and there was a driver who passed by and they like honking, are you okay? Can you get up? It was a very embarrassing moment, but at the same time, very awakening moment for me. So after I got healed, I started walking again, and guess what? I fell again and
Oh,
sprained the same ankle. So I was really annoyed. So I decided I was really annoyed. Yes, and so I decided to join the gym. And of course, when you join gym, you get really enthusiastic. First 2 weeks, I went daily for 1 hour. Then after 2 weeks, you sort of wane away. You get lazy. Maybe it's too cold to go to gym, too hot to go to gym, or every excuse you have. So I asked my buddy to join the gym with me, and there was up and downs, together, like just we. I think it would really help that my buddy was with me all the
yeah.
time. But I want to say that it really changed my lifestyle. I'm kind of hooked on it now.
Okay.
My husband is an avid runner, so he runs like 10K every day, and that is,
Oh,
of course, yeah, that is motivation as well.
yeah.
But what I do during exercising is that I pray. So, for instance, when I do spinning class and I do the biking here, and it's sometimes it's really boring, especially when you bike yourself,
Mhm.
and 1 minute can be very, very long. But say I have something in my mind that bothers me, then I think about it while I bike, and I start praying. I don't know. I usually begin like hallelujah, thank you, Lord. And I start praying, and I pray about the problems that I have, and I start talking to God, and God, why is this happening to me? And please give me a way. Like I was exercising and running like crazy and like this. Can you please give me an answer or this one? What can I do? So in a way, I'm acting out my prayer, and it's this physical play of my prayer has made me change. I became stronger. I became like physically and mentally. I really find that exercise really helped. And nowadays, my body is getting hardened. I noticed that, the shoulder is getting sore all the time. So now I need to exercise in order to free from pain.
Has
But
it been challenging during COVID? Are you mostly biking and walking, or not
I'm
going to? I mean, there's no gym, so
I know it has been very challenging for sure. I do exercises. I try to do exercises every day. Do some push-ups and sit-ups and things like that. But it's not like it's not the same as going to
right.
gym and all this one. But I try
Because
to run.
community is important, whether isn't
It
it?
is
It's
very
your
important.
gym, whether it's a gym community or your church community. It's what we are all missing so much, that
Yes,
it's just so
for sure.
important to be doing things like this that sort of, help community to stay connected. So
Yes,
when we get out of this, we're still there for
I
sure.
know.
So
I know.
I'm sorry, I have to check notes here, Chunson. You know me, I'm an
Sure.
old person now, so I have to check notes. I can't remember everything. So I wanted to actually ask you some stuff about some information about music. What would you say your favorite style is of music? And
Oh,
do you have favorite performers?
oh, sure. Yeah. Of course, my favorite style is classical music. I listen every time, and in my car is CBC is set all the time. So it used to be every day, whole day. CBC had the classical music, but now that they changed a few years, I really don't like it anyhow. But yes, classical is the most thing that I listen to. But I have to say, when the inauguration happened, I was very impressed with Lady Gaga singing. And,
Yeah.
I don't mind listening to pop music, because since I have a daughter, she listened to a lot of pop music, and hip hop and things like that. So I listen to that. It's okay. It doesn't bother me. But if I have to choose, it will be the classical music. My favorite performer right now is a very young pianist. There are just tons and tons of performers coming out. You wouldn't believe, like, especially when we are access to social media. There's
Right. Yeah.
the age is getting younger and younger, right? The amount
It's
the
amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing. My famous performer is a British pianist called Benjamin Grosvenor, and he's amazing. And I have Daniel Trifonov, who is a young, not so young anymore, but a Russian who won competitions. And there's a Korean guy who Sang-Jin Cho, who recently won Chopin international
Oh, okay.
competitions. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's relaxing for you if you're sitting around. Is that how you like to
No,
relax? Or
no,
you
I don't.
never relax?
I'm not.
You're so busy. You have so many things on the go.
I don't listen to music when I relax. It gives me. I have to It's just a habit. When I
Yeah.
listen, I tend to analyze,
Okay.
so it doesn't give me the rest that I need. I just don't. Sometimes I love silence.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that's more relaxing for you then.
yeah,
Right.
and yeah, it
So
is.
you'll just sit and have some quiet time.
Yeah, I tried recently meditation.
Right.
One of my nieces is really on to meditating and meditation, and she gave me this app called Insight Timer or something like that, and it was very useful app actually. There's a lot of, you get this app ad, and you click on it and you end up have to paying for it, right?
Okay.
But this was a free one. You can subscribe, but there is a lot of free ones that you can do and do meditating,
Hmm.
and that seemed to really help me a lot.
Yeah. I like meditating. I've done a bit of it because I do some yoga, and there's always meditation involved in that. But I
Mm,
find the same thing. It's very, although I find it's very challenging to quiet your busy brain, but I continue to work like you. So, so Chunson, what is the first thing you want to do when all these restrictions are relaxed and COVID challenges are over, or at least a bit better?
yes, I want to visit my family.
Um,
I find it very necessary, and I need them. I need to see my family. Um, that comfort feeling that you can just talk about everything, anything, in any kind of condition, that I really miss.
mhm.
And just getting out of here.
Yes,
House, getting out of the house, and this lockdown setting, we all are very tired of it. But
must be very challenging teaching. The change in teaching style, eh? You
it
must have had
is.
to adapt quite a bit.
It's all virtual, and now the competitions are all virtual, so we have to make a YouTube link. We have to do the videos and make it all online setting, and it is really hard on my throat.
Hmm.
So that's why I got the external mic and all this one. But it's still, I end up going like this, and and shouting at them like, no, no, more pedal, like this and this one. I just realized that at the end of the lesson, I'm going, oh my god, why did I do that? I have the mic and I can just go. It's just, it's me. I just have to go near and go, have to um, tell them what I need to tell them.
Right. Well, I know from being in the choir, um, like you love to get the best out of people's skill, and
Mhm.
your encouragement to do that um, is well, it's priority for you. You feel people can do better, and it's important that they do the best they can, because you're doing the best. You're working so hard to do that. So, is your family spread all over North America, or do you still have family in Korea, or um,
No, I only have family in Korea. My husband's side,
okay,
and his oldest brother is in Korea, and the rest of his family is in North America too.
okay.
My family is in all over actually: LA, Seattle, Boston, Toronto, Vancouver. It's kind of nice to have.
Have a
Yeah.
bed to sleep
Yeah.
in at so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
different
exactly.
places. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
you must really miss too. I mean, I know your son is living in the States and working in the
Mm-hmm.
States. It
Mm-hmm.
must be it must be hard
It
to, I mean,
is.
for me, I know missing my kids and their families have been challenging
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Very.
Oh,
Yeah. But good thing we have this online. I mean, we're so thankful
absolutely.
for technology. Yeah.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
we've all developed such a thankfulness for technology. So,
for
for
sure.
sure. Well,
Yeah.
Chunson, I know you probably have another student coming, or you have to pop on to have another student to teach, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I love talking to you, whether it's in this format or the other. And I know for me, one of the things I can't wait to do after COVID is start hugging people. I'm going to be a crazy person. I used to not like people to approach me, to hug me if I didn't know them or anything, but I'm feeling right now the need for human touch so much. So
Yeah, I feel like I need that as well, the human interaction, and it just really, in just once a week I see Alana and Gennaro too, right?
right.
And that helps me, and just seeing another person other than my family members,
Yeah.
and just talking and doing
You and Gennaro have been such a gift together. It's been wonderful. So anyways, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it so much. I loved hearing about your philosophies and your style. And I can't wait to give you a big hug at some point in the next, maybe 6 months, maybe. So
Yeah.
anyways, we'll see you on Sunday.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.